All right, I wanted to talk about a specific combination that I think might be worth using for those of you that play beast builds. Um, I wanted to first start off by circling back and going over the change that happened with Optico. So basically, what they did. So before, if you had a pet and a guest, Optico went. What's going on is if you used like Bard of War, Havarti Blade, something like that, Pet Hypercrit would stay both turns. So second turn, it would drop. So give you an example of that. I'll just come over here to Bard of War. So we have celerity. So pet's going, it's there, and as you can see, it is now dropped, and then the pet's going once again. So the reason why they did that is whenever you toggle this misc on, as you can see here, you take 8.5 accuracy and -6 blocking to pay for it. Well, if I attack one time and the pet goes two times, I'm only taking 8.5 BTH and -6 MRM. So um, what ends up happening is whenever the pet goes two times, you're not really taking the pet's receiving double the effect from here, but it's not really, you're not getting double the penalty to pay for the effect. And that's essentially why they did it. But one of the things that they did do was if the player does go two times, as you can see here, we have times 6. So the second turn, I'm almost positive, is even further BTH and even further MRM loss. But now it rolls in, so now Pet Hypercrit is now twice. So I think the actual number is like 5.5 or something, but it rounds up. But when it goes the second time, it's correctly at times 11. So what happens is when the pet goes that first time, it's basically guaranteed celerity. Now I would have preferred that they found a way to keep the times 6 two times like it's been, but it'll only work if the player goes twice. But that's fine. Basically, you're getting guaranteed a hyper crit. You're getting guaranteed lucky strikes. I mean, that first turn, and so that's the backdrop for the change. They've also um, just changed Tribal Shaman so that this guy, the pet hypercrit, I mean the pet alien power that you will see here, it's 5 turns. And so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you, it'll actually go down to 3 after phase is done. As you can see, it's now 4, and now it goes to 3 once it goes its second turn. So they're working on fixing they're working on fixing the interactions with it ticking down properly with the pet. Um, Now, one of the things they did not do, unless right now I'm going to find that it's fixed. If you remember, the Slaymore of Kindness has pet hypercrit also, but it also has a guest alien power. So what ends up happening, so if you'll see, I'll click it. So we have guest alien power for 3 rounds, and then we have pet hypercrit for, maybe they fixed it. Oh wow, so they actually fixed the guest alien power. So now, so I was going to say that before, the guest empowerment was not ticking down properly either. So what would happen is the elemental guest empowerment would stay at basically, so they both start off at 4 rounds, and then the pet would go twice, taking 2 turns off of pet hypercrit, but the guest taking 2 turns would only take 1 turn. So that's good because now you can click the Slaymore, and as you can see, that's now gone, and pet hypercrit is now going to be gone after this. So actually, instead of you skipping your turn once in 4, now it's once in 2 turns when using Bard of War. So that's actually a good change, and I was actually posted why wasn't this changed, and um, looks like they finally changed it. So that's um, a very good change. However, uh, as I'm finding this out in real time, oddly enough, I wanted to kind of talk about an idea here that I wanted to use with the Slaymore, not utilizing pet and guest celerity. And actually, I haven't even bothered to test it with Bard of War. So let's see what that looks like in real time. I may showcase something that's kind of shitty, as it turned out, with that real time test. But what I wanted to kind of show you is what happens when you use the Slaymore with player celerity, but you're using pet hypercrit. So here's what I'm going to show you. All right. So the way this is going to work is, so we have to inflict bleed right off the bat. So like if you're using Soul Neko, you could also use the Love Struck hand cannon now, whatever bleed sources you want. If you want to use a pet and a guest, if you're not using Soul Neko, or if you're using Luna Neko with bows, whatever. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to move over to Love Struck Scope. So it is actually going to be a cheap player only celerity because of the bleed, and it doesn't take a lot of bleed. So the bleed right now is 353. We click it, it took up the entire cost, and the bleed is now 053. So what did I say? 353. So basically, it's 0.3 power. That's not a lot. As you can see, it was enough from Soul Neko just to pay for it. So now we have player only celerity. All right. I wanted to back up here. So one of the odd interactions, if you remember, on um, player only celerity. So what I'm going to do here, I'll just do Shadow Feeder here. If you remember with Optico, if you remember, so it's going to go, you'll see it, it's going to go from times 6 to times 11. So I want you to keep that in mind. So we have times 6, we'll wait for the guest to go, and then we'll watch it change to times 11 once it takes its sweet ass time. Oh, I forgot about myself. All right, so now we're at times 11, so guaranteed hypercrit. So basically what we're working with is a heightened amount of hypercrit. But because the pet went 2 times, it disappears on the second turn. So what I'm going to be doing here is actually taking some of these ideas, and I'm going to utilize bleed infliction and the Love Struck scope to give player only hypercrit. As you saw when I had player hypercrit here and the pet went, it was times 11 because I had twice the penalty because I went twice. So basically what we're going to do here is player only celerity with Love Struck scope, which is basically free. It's like around 480 SP if you don't have bleed. So we're going to equip the Optico Misc, but I'm going to go ahead and spend my first turn actually clicking the Slaymore. So immediately we get the combination. Slaymore's normally like 2.93 right off the bat, I think, something like that. But because Optico was equipped, it stacked and it was boosted to 4.18. But I did not have pet and guest celerity. So what's going to happen here is when phase goes, that jumps to 543, when normally it would be times 11 for one turn. And then I'm going to go again, and this is going to jump to, I think, 7.1 or so. 7.1. As long as I have Optico equipped, it'll continue to increase. And at any point in this journey, you can not use it. 9.6, you can swap to a different misc. I mean, if you want to use Area's Rattle or something like that, that's fine. And keep in mind, you can always use Tribal Shamans, Pet Alien Power if you wanted to use like Foam Finger, whatever, whatever other boosts you want to combo with it. So basically, times 9.6 is basically guaranteed. But that jumps to 14.6, as you can see. So basically, what this means is you inflict bleed, and then you pay for your player celerity for free. Then you use that turn to click, which is fine because you're a Beastmaster. You don't care about taking up player turns, right? So it's not a big deal. Then the next thing you do is click your Slaymore, and then you can swap to whatever, right? From there, it really doesn't matter. And then you'll just, as long as you have Optico equipped still, it'll continue to raise. If you want to do it the first one and get like times 5.4 or whatever, that's almost the same as the single turn times 6. So the end result basically is an increase, a scaling increase in your pet hypercrit. So there's some other shenanigans at play, even though they changed it. Now, what I'm going to do this time, actually, is I'm going to use the left scope from the beginning. We have 462 SP. I think I said 580 something earlier. And then what we're going to do now is this is going to be the real-time test to see what happens. So as you can see, all right, so we have 4.18. Now that's 5.43. The guess goes twice. And then I'm guessing the pet hypercrit is 5.43 two times. We'll see what happens here. It'll run out here, but we're at 7.93, but it'll run out, and then we could start the process all over again. So let's do that. Start the process all over again. I wonder what would happen. Let's see here. So it still gave a guest celerity, but no pet celerity. Interesting. All right. So let's get this back out. Bring out the kids. And then again, we'll do this all over again. And we'll see what happens this time. 5.43 once again. Still on cooldown, yeah. All right, right, so now we're at 7.93, but I'm wondering if it'll go up even further right now. Yeah, it's up to 10, so that's where it changes, and then it'll tick down, I think, after that. But it actually will be 2 rounds of 10.43. So basically, if you can find a way to do 2-player only celerities back to back, by the time that the Slaymore will go, both turns on phase on turn number 2 will be guaranteed lucky strikes. So let me say that again. So if you did a Love Struck scope celerity and a Shadow Feeder pendant celerity using Bard of War, by turn 2, after doing so, your pet will get 2 turns, because it's going twice, of guaranteed pet hypercrit. So let's do that one more time. So there's 1, there's 2, start the process over. Pet and guest celerities are stacking with Bard here. So I went, that automatically boosted it to 7.93, and then this will also then boost it to over 10 now, 10.43, with 2 rounds to go. And now let's just test this normally. So I think the Slaymore and some player-only celerity, at least with the Love Struck scope, should result in some pretty strong results, because the player-only celerity is feeding the multi-turn stack between the 2 items, if that makes sense. So that's up to 6.6. This should raise again, 9.18. So the pet's going to go 2 times it, almost guaranteed celerity here. And then you can basically start over. But that's it for this video. Just some updates there and some kind of pretty cool interactions for those Beastmasters that are out there.